friends. Thanks for joining us for today's Talk for Your Walk with Bridget Lynch. I am so excited to have Ashley with us today. She's going to tell you about her, but I want you to know that she's a lawyer. We have recently met in a community that we're a part of, and I'm so thankful that she agreed to be on my podcast and just share some things with you, answer some questions, and just so we can get to know her and how she can help our community and our listeners. And so, Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today, especially to help out any way that I can. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. And so just tell us a little bit about you. We kind of want to know you a little personally, but obviously we can't expect you to tell us everything. This is not that long of a podcast, guys. But we want to hear about you as a person, but then also what you do for as a lawyer.
Yeah, no problem. So I don't know how where all of your listeners are located, so they could be all over. I personally am located in Central Florida. So I live in Orlando. I've lived in Orlando for quite a long time now, probably like 16 years. I went to college here and I went to law school here in Orlando. So I am not a mom. So I know you were like, hey, so tell us a little bit more about yourself. I do have three adopted little fur babies.
Nice.
So I love them. Sometimes I want to hurt one of them more than the other. There are no favoritism. No, there's no favoritism. We love them all equally, but differently. I do not have any actual children or anything, but so I do family law. So I do family law and domestic violence. I also work with human trafficking nonprofits sometimes, but I mainly do family law and domestic violence. So actually, how I got into family law is actually a really funny story. So when you and I were talking before I came on, so I said in law school I would never ever do family law, and if any of you know God, you don't tell him what you're not going to do. So that's what I did, and I said it multiple times. I'm never ever practicing this area of law. It's way too emotional. I don't like it. So what happened was during the virus, when it first hit, like in 2020 or whatever, I had two jobs. Well, I lost them both overnight. So I started praying with to God. I started asking for guidance. I was like, God, what do you want me to do? And He was like, it's time to open your own law firm. And at that
Mm.
time, I was only practicing for a little under a year. So I was like, no, that's not a good idea. I don't really want to do that right now. I always wanted to have my own law firm, but I didn't want it that fast. And I was like, okay, God, well, what kind of area of law do you want me to practice? Because I knew what I wanted to practice, but I wanted to make sure it was what God wanted me to. And He was like, family law. And I was like, no, that's not a good idea. Let's try that again. So I kept praying about it over and over, because God was going to change His mind and change His answer. So I prayed about it for like, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 times. And it was like, family law, and you need to open your firm now. So I did it during the virus. My firm was completely virtual. I love it. And I opened my law firm with no clients, no experience in family law. I only signed on two clients, and then I quit the job that I did have because I was working part time because it started back up during the virus. So I just went in it fully, and it's been the most amazing blessing ever since. So
Wow. That's fantastic. And, let's hit on that part where we talk about, not listening to God right away, because our our delay is actually disobedience. Oof, I know that hurts a little bit,
I
right?
know.
And so I've been there too. What we shared together before we hit record, you guys, is that I did the same thing. So I am currently helping women with trauma, right? And so that's a form of mental health. And I am doing a mental health certification for coaching. And that is something that I was like, God, I am never doing mental health. Like, no way, I'm not doing that. And so Ashley and I discovered that we had that in common, which is really funny. Funny how God works that way. And so I love that. So tell me a little bit more about what that is like having the virtual practice. Like, what does it look like for the customer coming in?
Great question. So, and normally it's not ever really a problem. Only like a couple times in the almost 3 years I've had my firm that someone said, I'm not going to talk to you because it's not in person. That's actually only happened to me one time.
Hmm.
So when someone reaches out for a consultation, we just say, okay, we'll do it via phone call. And if someone's like, I really want to see you, I'm like, that's fine. We can do a Zoom meeting. That happens pretty rare. Honestly, everyone's pretty good with it. And how I like to explain it to them is, listen, I'm here to help save you money and help save your gas. So a phone call, you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to spend any time or money. You can just do it on a lunch break or maybe before you're about to pick up the kids. So I love it. I love being virtual. So everything with us will be either via email or it's going to be text message. So you can text our business line. So me, myself, and my paralegal, we go through the app and you can text us. Uh, Honestly, I've not had any problems with it. I love it. I love being virtual because one, it saves on overhead, but two, it helps clients because they don't have to keep driving and they don't have to come see you. Then they don't have to physically drop off all of these documents. They can just download them online and just like put it in like a Dropbox or a Google or just email them to you. So honestly, it's just been amazing. I love it. I have had no problems. And it's crazy because when I first started doing it, people looked at me like, you're crazy. That's ridiculous. That's never going to work out. And now I'm seeing more and more attorneys are now starting to do the virtual. So
Hmm.
it made me realize, I was like, God, you're such a trendsetter, such a trendsetter.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's funny because I'm as you're talking, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have had that. Like all the back and forth I had to do to the courthouse and to this and to that and bringing in documents and I mean, goodness, I would have loved that. That would have been great. And so that's what a great service that is. Um, so I want to go back to another question in a little bit, but I do want to kind of hit on a couple of things. So how would you, I know like I would love to pick you, right? Like just listening to you, I'm like, oh, great. She's a great lawyer. I would pick her. But how would you recommend someone to actually go, okay, what kind of research should they do? How should they look and search for a lawyer? There's so many ways that you can find one, but how do you know you're getting a good one, really?
That is a fantastic question. So that's actually something I do tell people when they're looking for an attorney. So when you're researching for an attorney, I would definitely look at their Google reviews. Now I don't know what state everyone's in, but in Florida, if you go to the floridabar.org and you type in that attorney's name, it will say like when they were sworn in, like how long they've been practicing for. So you can look. Now I will say this, even if someone has 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, does not always translate to being an amazing attorney.
Hmm.
Sometimes attorneys get a little relaxed because they've been doing it for so long, so they're not always following up with the rules. That's not everyone. But I'm just saying, just because an attorney has been practicing 20 or 30 years does not always mean that they are the best.
Right.
Additionally, even if they're like the most expensive, because some people sometimes will equate they're the most expensive, therefore they're the best. Absolutely not. So another thing what I tell people is when you're looking for an attorney, make sure that, especially in family law, they actually care about you.
Hmm.
Because with what I do, I can tell you a lot of attorneys out there don't. A lot of them don't. And they are really psychologically harming the children as well as their client because they
Hmm.
don't care. And I've had multiple cases where I can tell the other side only cares about their own pocket, and they don't care about you or your child. At our firm, you do matter. We are a faith based law firm. So we pray
Hmm.
for our clients quite often. We pray for every hearing. When we have mediation, we pray for you after your case is done. And we look out for you after your case is done. So whenever you're reaching out to an attorney, um, I would be very aware of how they are speaking to you and how they are responding to you. If they like over deliver, like I can promise, I can guarantee, you need to run. Because in family law, you can never guarantee or promise an outcome ever. So if you ever hear an attorney, yes, slam dunk, promise you, I guarantee you, like you need to run very far in the opposite way. But make sure they actually care about you. Don't
Hmm.
go with someone just because everyone says they're great. Like truly listen to them and see if they actually sound like they care about you. Because like you're sharing with them very intimate details about your life, very personal things. And unless you like lose a loved one or get like cancer, this is probably gonna be the most vulnerable time in your life. So it matters. And you want someone who's actually gonna fight for you, but someone who actually cares, someone who's
Hmm.
gonna be honest with you and make sure that you make good decisions. Because in family law, a lot of times we make emotional decisions, not logical. So you want to make logical decisions, not emotional decisions, because when you make emotional decisions, you make very bad decisions. So
Yeah.
I hope that helped.
Wow, that was so great. It was so helpful. I know I got some things out of it. I just love the care, and you can hear that from you, and I love that. I love that I can hear it and see it in the process of how you take care of your clients, and I love that. Now, speak to the people that maybe they have someone right now and they're like, how do I get rid of this one and get this attorney instead, or get another attorney instead? How do I do that?
Okay, so that is a really good question. That's kind of a gray area question. So in Florida, how it works is if I know you're represented. So Bridget, you reach out to me and I know you're represented. Ethically, I'm actually supposed to reach out to your attorney first to see if it's okay to even speak to you because you were actually represented.
Mm.
Now, I can tell you there's a lot of attorneys that are not going to do that, but you are supposed to. Are you going to get in trouble if you don't? Like, no, because sometimes people are really unhappy with their attorney, so they'll reach out to someone else. But just be careful. So if you're not happy with who you have, be very honest. Why are you not happy? Now, if the reason is I've reached out to you and I hear from you once a month, but and you're never, ever, ever responding when I do reach out, then that could be a problem. Now, sometimes in family law, there are quiet periods of time. I always tell my clients, listen, you're not going to go long periods of time without hearing from me. But say, God forbid, it's been like 3 weeks. That's because we're either waiting on the other side or maybe we're waiting to go to court. So
Mhm.
sometimes it is a quiet time. But if you're reaching out to your attorney, and I don't mean like an annoying way, like every single day, because that's being a little ridiculous. But if it's like, okay, I reached out to you on Monday, I haven't heard from you, it's Wednesday, and I reach out again. Oh, and that kind of stuff keeps happening. I would maybe kind of look for another attorney, or at the very least, just hey, what's going on? I'm kind of reaching out. Can you kind of give me a heads up? So see what's actually going on with your attorney, because sometimes I hear from people, well, they've done absolutely nothing. Well, did they actually do nothing to you for you in your eyes, or
Mhm.
are they just not doing enough? So see what actually is going on. See if your attorney does care about you, and see if like they just keep asking for like a boatloads of money, but nothing's really getting done in your case. If you have
Sure.
an attorney who keeps wanting to refill the retainer, and the retainer is like the amount of money you paid them to come on the case,
Mhm.
see like if it's been like a month or two and now they want like another X thousands of, those are kind of like some signs. So just be aware of how your attorney is acting, if they're responding, how they're responding, and just see. So, and if you want to go with someone else, that's totally fine. I don't personally let clients go very often because I have really good clients. God's blessed me with great clients.
Mhm.
But every once in a while, I do have to let them go because they won't let me help them. I did have a client that refused to give me her financial documents, and I was like, "That's illegal." I was
Yeah.
like, "That's illegal. I can't do that." I was like, "If you don't give them to me, I'm gonna have to let you go." So I had to let her go because she's like, "Well, I don't want to give them to the other side," and I'm like, "That's illegal. You have to give them." So
Right. Right. Yeah.
hopefully that helped.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I want people to get from that also is that know that you have to do your part. Like it's not just all on the lawyer, right? Like,
Mhm.
just take this example that she used just a second ago. Like you have to submit the things that they're requesting of you. And like you said, this is a very personal situation. And we talked a minute ago about me being a nurse, and that's a very vulnerable situation, right? When you're sick and not feeling well and a nurse has to come in and take care of you, like that's a difficult situation. But know that you have to go through some hard things to get through to the other side of what God has promised you. And so if we are just stuck and we're, no, I'm not going to do that, well, then you're not going to live open-handed and hearted so that God can fill up that void that you need to fill, right? And so it just makes me think of just things like that whenever we are like, no, I'm not, I'm totally fighting this. Well, then you're not going to get the help you need. And honestly, she probably lost out on a really great, I know she lost out on a really great service. Just the few minutes we've been talking, I can tell that you really care about your clients. And so the fact that, she turned that away, that was really like probably a really great blessing in disguise, and she didn't even realize it. And so, guys, that's why I encourage my listeners so much to just live like open-eyed, open-minded, open-hearted, open-handed, because you got to be open to receive however God is trying to give it to you. It makes me think of that scenario when it's like the guy's like stuck on the roof and it's a flood, and like God sends a boat and God sends something else and then sends a helicopter, and he's like, no, I'm waiting on the Lord. And the Lord's like, hey, I sent you all these things. Like, what are you waiting on? And so just have your eyes open to these things, right? So yeah, that was really, really great. And I appreciate that so much. So, let's kind of get into um there was something else that I wanted to hit on, and kind of going a little on the track of maybe more of a personal situation, not personal for me, but for someone else that I was talking with. And it just made me think, oh, I'm going to meet with Ashley. I want to ask her. Right. So, um, whenever you're in something, and maybe the lawyer does care, maybe you're in a situation that just seems like this seems just hopeless, like we're not getting anywhere, things are delayed, um you know I'm not getting, not necessarily like what I want, but what's best for the family. Like how do you coach and help people through situations like that when it just seems like this is such a hard person to work with, not you, but the opposite party. How do you work through with your clients with things like this?
So that is really hard. And that happens every day, all day, every day with most of my clients. There's very few clients that I have that really both parents are on the same side. In Florida, what it comes down to is it's what's best for these children if there is a child involved. It's not what's best for mom or dad. It's what's best for these kids. And it's really hard for parents sometimes to grasp that, especially when sometimes there's so much hurt. So I always tell my clients, because I live by this myself as well, take it one day at a time. Because when you
Mm,
start thinking about next week, next month, next year, months down the road, you are robbing today of its joy.
mm,
And I've seen it really affect clients. And then I can see it like on them that their like bodies breaking down and they are like just one day away from having like a heart attack. Seriously, because they're letting the stress
mm,
just overwhelm them. So if you're not getting along with the other side, then just take a step back. Okay. So there's things that you could do. So a lot of times with clients that I have that are having a very difficult relationship with the other side, you can do either Talking Parents or Our Family Wizard or a similar app. Now, those apps you have to pay for. However, they can offer waivers depending on your income if you're low income. So what I recommend is if you get that, you download that. And that way you don't have to talk to the other parent or spouse on the phone. You just message. So it's an app. You got to log in, but you need to make sure that everything you say can never, ever, ever, ever be deleted. Like there's a date and timestamp. It can never, ever, ever be deleted. But it
mm,
can also be used in court against
mhm,
them to show, like, hey, listen, I'm trying to work it out with the other parent. They're being nasty, but they're being cruel. Okay, send me the transcript and like you can download it. It's a PDF. You send it to me and I look through it and I see, okay, yes. And then you can bring it to the court and do a contempt. It's really hard to co-parent with someone who can be very abusive, but you have to always be one step ahead. Okay. So if you know that they're going to say something very nasty or hostile because they can, I want to say, get under your skin, get your butt, like get to you, turn your buttons or whatever. You have to be one step ahead. So if you know they're doing that to make you feel bad or get a response out of you, then why are you responding? You legally only need to respond when it's about your children.
mm.
Okay. Again, that's Florida. I don't know about other states, but in Florida, you legally only have to respond like if it's regarding your children, but it's like something you actually need to respond to. And they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, I want them to look this way. And okay, just ignore them. And I know that's much easier said than done, but if you are in an abusive relationship, or if you don't know if you're in one, you will forever be controlled even after these children turn 18, forever be controlled by this person if you continue to let them control you. And I
Mm,
have moms and dads who continue to let the other side control them. I'm like, well, I have to explain myself. To who? To who are you explaining
right.
yourself to? You have no one to explain yourself to. I'm not going to judge you. You're in a safe place with me. So who's judging you? Their attorney? They don't care. So it's like, unless it goes to a judge, it doesn't matter. So let them rant, let them say whatever they want. Just let them go because they are the ones that are going to look really bad in front of a judge.
Hmm.
So now, if you don't have any children involved, and you're like, well, what if you don't have any kids involved? Well, how do I try to get along with them? Just keep it about like the marital stuff, or just speak to them like through your attorneys. So just you can avoid them as much as possible. Do it in email. You can say going forward, I'm sorry, but there will be no phone calls. Everything
Hmm.
will have to be in writing. There's ways to protect yourself, but try to keep it focused on like the bigger picture. Like if there's
Yeah.
no children, this will be over soon because they can't drag it out forever. If there are children involved, It's about the children. It's not about mom or dad. It's about these kids. And
Hmm.
as long as one of you stays focused on it, hopefully the other one will as well. But I see a lot of times, no. But you need to stay focused on these kids. So make sure the decisions you're making are for these kids. And especially in Florida, both parents are legally allowed to see these kids half, like, 50-50 or half. So if the other parent doesn't want them half, then that's fine. But just know they are legally entitled to half. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that was a very, very long winded answer. So I apologize if it was.
No, no, that was fantastic. And a couple of things I want to hit on. One, yes, boundaries are super important. Like I coach my clients all the time about this in my community. I'm like, listen, you don't have to respond to that. Stop letting him or her, whatever, but it's him in my case, because I coach women. Stop letting him talk to you that way. You don't have to respond. Just ignore it. And so it's a constant thing for them because they feel like they, again, like Ashley said, like they have to explain themselves. No, you don't. If you
No,
need to
you don't.
talk to someone, talk to God. He'll listen to you. Explain
Absolutely.
yourself to him.
And you need to be so careful about that because I
Yeah.
represented a woman on a domestic violence case, and I could tell she was very scared of the other side. Well, they had one of those apps downloaded, so again, it can never be deleted. She sent me over 1,000 pages of it because you couldn't just like send over from this date to this date. So it was the entire transcript. So it was 1,000 pages. Well, she didn't have enough money for me to go through 1,000 pages, but I did go through over like 600.
Yeah.
Out of all of those pages, I could only bring like 5 of those to the court. And you know why? Because mom was equally as aggressive to dad, if not worse. And I
Mm,
don't say that in a mean way, but I was like, you look like the aggressor in a lot of these. Why are you
mhm.
responding?
Yeah.
Well, I have to. No, you don't. You do
Mhm.
not have to defend yourself. So stop defending yourself. Stop explaining yourself. Well, if I don't respond, I'm going to. No, you're not. They will look bad. Let them go. Let them rant. Let them say whatever they want. You only respond when you have to, meaning it's about the kids and you do need to respond. Or if you don't have kids, then whatever it is regarding the house. And if you're represented, then just have him speak to the attorney. If he's
Right.
not represented, he needs to speak to the attorney. So you really don't have to respond, honestly, like really at all if you don't want to. So,
Mhm.
but you need to make sure that you're really paying attention because this can be used in court. And now you, the person who's being victimized or the survivor, you might look like the abuser yourself. So you want to be
Right.
very careful.
It's really good. And I would just, this is not about me, but I would tell you guys that, in the scenario that I was in, and I had to do 3 different depositions. I had to, I was under the state attorney because it was a domestic violence situation. And so I'm going to tell you that I may have spoken a handful of times because I knew that God is a God of justice and he would fight for me. And so utilize your lawyer because you have a representative for a reason. Like keep your piper shut. You just talk to your lawyer and God will work out the rest. There are times when I don't know, in my situation, maybe in other people's, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, or maybe actually you've had people where maybe they don't have a lot of confidence in the judicial system because of what they went through. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit because for me, I trusted the greatest judge, right? So I put my trust in God, knowing that he was going to take care of things that I know I couldn't take care of or anyone on this earth couldn't take care of. But I know that God would. But talk to the people that are like, I don't even want to do this because I don't trust it. I have doubts.
That it's hard and it's sad because you are correct. A lot of people have been hurt, especially by those in the legal system, either whether they're attorneys or judges or the police, just they've been hurt. So, or they've seen people be hurt. So therefore they think, maybe people are really shisty. The reality of it is there is injustice like everywhere. Now, will God be the ultimate one to rectify it? Absolutely. So if it's not rectified here on this lifetime, it will be rectified afterwards. And
Yeah.
I know that's like, okay, well, that doesn't help me now. But the reality of it is there's bad everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Like there's bad doctors, there's bad nurses, there's shady like taxpayers or shady accountants,
Hmm.
shady CEOs. There are shady judges, but I will be very honest. The judges that I go in front of, and I go in front of a lot because I practice in multiple counties. A lot of them really do care. Most of them really, truly do
Hmm.
care about your case and about your outcome. Now, if they're not really educated, because maybe they're new to family law, because the judges rotate every couple of
Hmm.
years, so maybe they're new to family law. So either you, if you're not represented, has to like kind of educate them a little bit, or me, the attorney, has to educate them. So if you don't like, and the reality is you don't know what's going to happen. So I tell people, listen, I'll speak to an injunction case for right now. So if you have to go for an injunction case and you have to represent yourself, which a lot of times women usually do,
Hmm.
this is what I tell them. You want to put your strongest evidence first. A lot of times women will tend to put like, they need to know the backstory of 5 years. No, 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 no. That's not how it works with an injunction in Florida. So in Florida, if you want to get an injunction or a restraining order, but we call them injunctions here in
Hmm.
Florida, if you want to get a restraining order against the other side, you need to have the evidence to back it up. Do you have videos? Do you have text messages? Do you have photos? But you need to make sure that there's dates on them, because sometimes people will just, oh, here's a video. There's no date on it. I
Hmm.
need to know when the date was. When were the
Hmm.
photos? We need dates on the photos. Text messages. We need the dates on the text messages. Don't be going 10 years back like, oh, this started 10 years. You start with the most recent event, then you work your way backwards.
Right.
So it's like, because I know sometimes, well, the judge didn't listen to me. Well, a judge is not going to hear your life story. And that I think that's what happens with like either like the media or with like shows. People think, oh, I'm gonna go on the stand and tell my life. That's not how it works in real life.
Hmm.
That's not what happens when you go in front of a judge. They're gonna ask you questions. And sometimes people think, oh, well, I'm gonna have my day in court. No, you're not. You're not gonna have your day in court. They're gonna ask you some questions, and then based on your responses and how you respond, they're going to make a ruling. So,
Hmm.
do you have maybe a better shot if the other side's not represented as well, but you have some evidence to try to back it up? Yeah, you have a much better chance. But if the other side's represented, it's going to be difficult. So,
Right.
so it's hard. And you're like, well, what happens if I can't afford an attorney? Well, reach out and see if you can do a consultation with someone and they can help
Hmm.
you kind of prepare for your case. I have people that reach out to me all the time. Ash, I can't afford to hire you, but I need help going into this hearing. That's fine. I'm happy to help you. I
Hmm.
would absolutely reach out to that attorney though at least a few weeks in advance, because when you reach out to me and your hearing's tomorrow, well, guess what? Now your evidence was too late to bring in. So,
Yeah.
and that happens more often than you think it would. So
Mm.
if you need help from an attorney, now I don't know if every family law attorney is going to just help you, but we will at our firm. Okay, you can't afford us, but we'll do a consultation. You paid for the consultation, but hey, I'm going to help you. Okay, this is what you need to do to try to make your hearing as strong as possible. So
Hmm.
it really depends on what your case is, but don't think that everyone's out against you, because there's not. There's so many attorneys and judges that really truly do care. I've seen a lot of police officers who do care. I know there's a lot
Hmm.
that don't, but there's more that do care than don't care. So,
That's so good.
so yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the biggest things that I do on my podcast, Ashley, is bring hope and encouragement to people. And that was super hopeful and encouraging. So thank you for that. It's really, really great. Um, I did want to mention, do you know of services for someone who maybe can't afford it? Because we are talking about a lot of money sometimes. I know in my personal life, I've spent a lot of money in legal fees. And so I want to know, how can we help those people that can't afford it?
Absolutely. And, in family law, it can be so expensive. I just had someone reach out to me today and say, hey, maybe my boyfriend who's going through this divorce case, maybe they can speak to you. They were like, oh, he spent like $17,000 so far. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Hmm.
My clients don't usually spend anywhere near that, not anywhere close. But again, I don't know all the issues. Maybe there's a lot of money, a lot of stuff. I don't know. So if you can't afford, I would definitely look up a local legal aid in your area. So depending on what county you are, now if you're in Florida, there's a whole bunch of them.
Hmm.
Some are for like a couple of different counties. They're really great. They're going to find out how much you make, how many dependents you have. So they're really great. Now, if your issues are super, super complicated or your case is really super complicated, they might not take you on because it's just too much and it's just too many people. Now,
Hmm.
I created a business for people. It has to be family law, it has to be Florida family law. But if you can't afford an attorney, what it is, it's a licensed attorney, myself, explaining the Florida family law forms to you. So it's a
Great.
video. I pull up the forms and we're literally going through the forms section by section. What does this mean? What does it mean to fill this out? So I tried to make them very affordable. They're $50. So if you spend $100, one video will be a petition to file for divorce, or dissolution of marriage is what we call them, but a divorce. And then another video is all the divorce paperwork. Because if I put it all in one, it would be so overwhelming. So I
Mhm.
made it in two separate videos, and that's $100. So now I know sometimes people will go to a paralegal firm. You need to be very, very careful. I'm not speaking ill of those, but you need to be very careful.
Mm.
They are not licensed attorneys. It is a felony in Florida. It is a third-degree felony for someone to give you legal advice if they are not a licensed attorney. So just be very careful who you go to. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, let me ask everyone, my mom, family, friends. Please be careful with who you're asking for advice, because they are not supposed to be. I mean, I get it. We help each other. I get that. But be very careful. They're
Right.
not an attorney. So you need to be very careful with what kind of information you listen to. So the name of the company is called, I know it's a long name. It's called Pro Se, which means you're not represented. So
Mhm.
Pro Se, Prose, Florida Family Law. So Pro Se, Florida Family Law.com. If you sign up for the newsletter, we give you free information about 5 tips if you're following through a divorce. There's a couple free blogs on there about information you do need to know, not just about divorce, but maybe about your children or financials. So I tried to not make it just for divorce. It's also paternity actions as well. So paternity is when you have a child with someone you're not legally married to. I do have more videos coming. So, but I have some videos up there right now, and I really hope that they help someone. So, because sometimes you want the help of an attorney, but you're like, I can't afford an attorney, but can they
Mhm.
help me? So that's why I made the videos, because I truly hope that they can help you fill it out yourself. Because even when I work with the legal aid societies, the legal aids in Florida, sometimes it's just not enough time to talk to someone, and they're still so overwhelmed. And
Sure.
that way, if you purchase a video, you can re-listen to it over and over, like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, that's right, she said this.
That's
So
fantastic. Yeah, because you may need to revisit it several times to get the forms right, right?
yeah, it's a lot. And when people reach out for consultations, usually I have to repeat everything like 4 times. And it's not because like
Mhm.
they're not intelligent, they're just so overwhelmed when they
Yeah.
reach out to you.
Mhm.
It's a very emotional time. And especially when someone reaches out to you and you're the first person they spoke to, or maybe you're the first one, that will hear them. So people are just, they're so overwhelmed, and it's a lot. So hopefully they'll help people. So that's why I
Yeah,
made
this
them.
is fantastic. No, I mean, listen, guys, the last retainer fee I paid, and it was quite a while ago, but it was $1,500. Okay, so $100 as opposed to 1,500. That's a big difference. And somebody may be able to help you pay that $100, right? Like somebody will be like, "No, let me help you. I'll pay $100 for you." You just never know. I did want to hit back on something real quick that you talked about. So, you know, you've talked about texting, and then you talked about the apps that you can get to converse with the other party. So tell me how, like, say a texting record would be different than this app that you talked about, because I'm curious to know if that would be a better suggestion or if texting files are still just as good.
So that is a great question. So if you're just like texting via like just WhatsApp, regular messenger, like Facebook Messenger, or just like regular texting, you got to be prepared, because the other side, like if they're, especially if they're represented, could very likely keep it out, because it's like, did you delete anything? Is this really your number? Like they could try to say it wasn't good evidence. Whereas if you use Our Family Wizard or Talking Parents,
Hmm.
that is absolutely admissible in court. Absolutely. So, and the reason why is because, well, one of the reasons why is because it's just you logging in, or legally, it's supposed to be just be you and then the other parent logging in. So it's very, very strict and
Mm.
stuff like that. You have to register. There was actually a case a while ago, not too long ago, maybe like in the last year or two, and this attorney was logging in for their client and responding. And they weren't trying to be like malicious or nasty, but they were logging in their client and responding to the other side. And that attorney got in a lot of trouble. So
Mm.
it's really serious. So, And if someone's like, oh no, what, that was my husband, or that was my new man, or whatever, or my new girlfriend, you can get in a lot of trouble. So you want to make sure it's just you and just the other parent. But they are absolutely admissible in court. And that way you can see there's nothing's been deleted. This is completely the record. Whereas a regular text message or messenger or whatever you use, the other side can maybe discredit it and say it's not as, maybe something's missing, or because I've had people send me messages and then they're like screenshotting them. I'm like, okay, I can't, I gotta have the messages. I can't
Yeah.
screenshot them because people can, like mess with them. Are
Hmm.
people really doing that? Highly unlikely, probably not, but that's not the point. If
Right.
the other side kind of proves that, then guess what? You just had all this evidence that didn't come in. So it's
Hmm.
like protect yourself in the long run.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
because
Thank you. That's
yeah.
good. That's great. Now I want to hit, on the kids a little bit more really quick. So I know for me, I had, like I said, I had to go back and forth to the courthouse, this and that. So talk to I love your service as a virtual. That's one of the best things about, the virtual communities that have been launched and different things, because if you have kids, you don't have to take them anywhere. Right. And so, I kind of want to have a conversation about the kids, because obviously, like you said, like they can really be hurt. This is about the kids, but a lot of times it's not. And so, we have to be very careful. These are children that are eventually going to be nurses, lawyers, doctors, police officers, whatever, when they grow up. So it's like we have to be careful with their hearts and their spirits. And so, like, tell me, do you encourage your clients, like, on that side? Like, how do you encourage them to be like, hey, are you really thinking about the kids in this scenario? Or what
Oh
does that
yeah.
look like? Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. When I do consultations, to bring someone on, I always let them know, like, listen, this isn't about you. This is about the children. And one thing about me is I will never help you hurt the other parent, even if that parent's a psychopath, or maybe they shouldn't see the kids. Maybe if they're an addict, because I have cases right now where the other parent's an addict. But I'm never going to help you hurt the other side. I am a product of a divorce. I know what it's like to have one parent never say anything bad about the other parent. And I know what it's like to have that parent and their new spouse say horrible, horrible things about the other parent.
Hmm.
That is so unbelievably harmful to your child. You have no idea the ramifications psychologically, what it does to your child.
Hmm.
Stop doing that. The children are not a messenger. And if you're in Florida, that's illegal. So
Yeah.
your children are never a messenger, and you need to not ever, ever, ever speak badly about the other parent to the child. That is illegal as well. And you are not allowed to keep the other parent from speaking to their child. That is illegal. I know it is so much easier said than done, but you have to realize it's not about you. It is about this child or these children. And
Hmm.
what it will come down to is if you keep speaking ill about the other parent and keep speaking ill or not letting them see that other parent, they are going to grow up and then they're going to eventually see. Now, when they're really young, they might not see it right away. If you have a
Right.
child that does, you have a very gifted child. I did not see it right away. But when I became a teenager, the parent who was speaking very badly about the non-parent who was like not saying anything, I finally went off on that parent and my step parent. I said, listen, you will no longer speak about this parent that way. I was like, we're
Hmm.
done with that. So guess what happened? I no longer speak to that parent anymore because of what they kept doing.
Hmm.
So it will absolutely harm your child. So they need to be the ones that decides mom or dad's a jerk. Mom or dad's not really there for me. They are the ones that need to make that decision. You don't plant that in their head. Don't you dare do that to your child because it's sick and it's evil and it's wrong.
Hmm.
They need to be the one that says, you know what, mom's never calling me, dad's never calling. They need to be the one that figures it out on their own. And you need to not ever plant that in because you will have to, you will be accountable to God. If not here on this earth, you will receive punishment for what you have
Hmm.
done because it is that serious and it's really evil. And I always tell clients, don't you dare speak bad about that other parent. So as far as I know, they don't because I have great clients. Not everyone's obviously amazing, whatever, but my clients are very good because I tell them we're not going to hurt the other parent. And I mean, I could have actually really hurt another parent because they didn't even answer the divorce paperwork. They didn't say anything. So we really could have got, I don't want to say like literally whatever within reason, but I made
Yeah.
sure that once that parent got sober, that he could see his kids again.
Mm.
Right now, it was like supervised and stuff, but once he got sober, I was like, we need to make sure that there's something in place for him to see these kids because I knew legally that you could really harm them legally and it would be
Yeah.
very, very difficult for them to see their kids again. And I was like, we're not going to do that. And my
Yeah.
client was very good and she's like, I don't want to do that either.
That's great.
So you want to be very careful about that. It's hard. I know it's hard, but it's like you have a child with that person, whether you planned it or didn't, you have this amazing child or children with them.
Hmm.
So don't make them, suffer the consequences. And, I will also say this because this absolutely needs to be said because I see this over and over again.
Hmm.
It is not your responsibility to keep calling the other parent to come talk to the child. It is not your responsibility to call the other parent to come see the children. That is not your responsibility. It is the other parent's responsibility to call and FaceTime or talk on the phone or do Zoom or whatever you want to do. It is your responsibility to make sure they can see the child, not whenever they want, needs to be reasonable and
Hmm.
all that. But what I'm saying is, it's not your responsibility. The children are mainly with you to be like, Dad, Mom, do you want to talk to them today? Do you want to talk? Stop doing that. I see moms, it's mainly moms. I see moms doing that over and over again, and it's really harming them psychologically, physically, emotionally. I just want them involved in the kids' lives. Okay, but it's not your responsibility to keep
Right.
following up with dad and make dad be a good parent. And I can't make the judge make him be a good parent. It is
Hmm.
on them. So
Yeah.
keep loving your kids, keep being a good parent, keep fighting for them. But you got to realize, like, when you have a child, it's not about you anymore. It's about this child. And
Hmm.
if you're no longer working with the other parent, you guys got to come together to try to work it out for your child because it will have very serious psychological ramifications on them in a bad way if you're
Hmm.
not able to. And don't ever put the children against the parents. Don't ever do that.
No.
That's so
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Such good advice, Ashley. Thank you. I mean, really, I can't thank you enough for all of these things. I mean, I don't want to wrap it up if you have some more to say, but I just, man, this has been, I know this is going to help a lot of people. And so I just
Mm.
want to say thank you. And
Yeah.
I know your services are helping people. I mean, what we have discussed, I can just tell your heart is just for families and for children. And I love that. And I love that it's a faith-based organization and that you know, are loving on people and caring about them. And the advice that you give, I mean, you're right. So you guys, she said this off record, but she is like a counselor too. She's not claiming that, but she's like one, I said, okay. And I remember being a nurse, you know, at bedside and with these families, and I felt like a counselor too, because you're just answering questions and saying things to people, and they're like, how come no one has said that? How come no one has encouraged me? How come no one prays with me? Well, I don't know about the other ones, but I know about me, and I know that I'm gonna care, and I'm gonna love, and I'm gonna pray. So, and I can see that in you, Ashley, and I just absolutely love that and appreciate your time. Would you like to share, once again, share your website with everyone? And then are you on socials at all, for Instagram, Facebook? Okay.
I am, yeah. So if you're looking for my law firm, so it's BaillargeonLawFirm.com. My last name is ridiculous. If you try to just sound it out, I should come up. So it's Baill, just kind of put that in there, I'll pop up. So that's my law firm. Now if you're looking for, hey, listen, I can't afford you, Ashley, or that's fine. So that business is Pro Se Florida Family Law.com. And those are the videos to help you fill out the family law forms if you can't afford an attorney. So that's that one. Hopefully that'll help you. Hopefully, what I always tell people is, I hope you don't ever need me for what I do, but if you do need me, I am here. I know family law attorneys, a lot of times we get a really bad rap. I feel like a lot of times we're the reasons why people hate attorneys, us and like criminal attorneys. But it's just like, know that a lot of us really do care. Like, I know there's
Mhm.
a lot who don't care, and I could mention them. I would never do that. But I could mention who those people are. But there are a lot of us who do care, and we want to make sure that you get the help you need. We work with counselors often because we want to make sure that you're healthy, not only while during your case is going on, but after your case is going on. At our firm, we'll put your divorce case on hold to try to save your marriage because it's not about money. It's
Mhm.
about your family. It's about protecting these children. And sometimes when people reach out, they don't even want a divorce. They're just like, I don't know what I should do. Maybe divorce is the option, and maybe it's really not what you want. You're just lost and you don't know what to do.
Mhm.
So when reaching out to a family law attorney, if you do need to reach out, please please make sure that they actually care about you, please, because this is a very important decision in your life and it's a very, very vulnerable time. Experience doesn't mean they're the best, and highest prices does not mean they're the best. Have a real conversation and make sure that they actually care about you. If they don't go with them. You trust your instinct, or trust your convictions coming from God. Like if something's off, don't go with them, because some of them are really going to hurt you and really make your life so much worse when your case is done, and that's not okay. So, and we would never want that for you. So it's great that you have someone like Bridget who really cares and wants you to get healthy and stuff, because it's so needed. And counseling, I know it's becoming less and less taboo, which is fantastic and everything, but it's like mental health is so, it's so important. Like if you something's wrong, get help, you know.
Yes.
And I know sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to self-medicate. Like sometimes maybe depending on what you have, but not always.
Right.
So try
Right.
to get holistic help, natural health if you're able to. If there's something you can't, then that's different. But you have someone here like Bridget who really cares, and you know, especially someone who's been there, so they understand. So
It's so
thanks.
great. This has been so great, and I'm so grateful for you. And again, I could just hear your heart, and I love that. I love that about you. So thank you. And guys, really reach out. You know, if you want to connect with Ashley, if it's something to do with, you know, law, you need an attorney, reach out to her, reach out to me. If you need a coach, you need a community to get involved in, especially if you're a woman and you've been through something traumatic. And, you know, guys, that can be a number of things. Trauma and encompasses a lot of categories. So make sure that you're getting the help that you need, reaching out to a coach or a counselor or someone. Just have a community of people that can love on you and pray for you and point you in the right direction. Okay. And so we are just so grateful again that you have been here. And thank you, Ashley, for being here. You've been a pleasure and such a great resource for us. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.